40-year-old man is behind bars after fatally shooting his 35-year-old friend over an argument about a $20 gaming voucher. At 12:37 p.m. on Sunday the 11th of June, authorities responded to a report of an unresponsive man in a hotel room at the Excalibur Hotel and Casino at 3850 South Las Vegas Boulevard in Las Vegas, Nevada. Investigators said that a housekeeper at the hotel noticed a bloodstain coming out of a door, and when she opened it, she saw Martel Merrill's body and immediately called hotel security, who then contacted police. When officers arrived at the scene, they found the man suffering from a gunshot wound, and medical personnel pronounced him dead at the scene. Authorities said that Christopher Mason checked into the room on Tuesday the 6th of June and was staying with Martel and another person. Detectives learnt that on the night of Saturday the 10th of June, security called 911 after a woman reported that a man she knew as Queez held a gun to her boyfriend's head. The woman said her boyfriend Martel was talking to her on the phone when he got into a confrontation with another person over a $20 gaming voucher. She said she heard a thud and then laboured breathing, but she gave security the incorrect room number. Detectives reviewed surveillance footage and saw Christopher get into an elevator Saturday night and leave the hotel before heading southbound on Las Vegas Boulevard. They checked Martel's phone and saw he got a text message from Christopher Saturday morning asking where the $20 gaming voucher was. There was also a 23-minute phone call between Martel and his girlfriend that evening, corroborating their girlfriend's story. Police also showed the woman a photo of Christopher, and she identified him as the person she knew as Queez. On Monday the 12th of June, the criminal apprehension team located Christopher about 10 miles away in the 6800 block of West Cheyenne Avenue and arrested him without incident. He's charged with an open count of murder, and he's held at the Clark County Detention Center without bond. A 27-year-old woman is behind bars for fatally stabbing a 27-year-old boyfriend after he accused her of cheating on him. At 6:31 p.m. on Saturday the 10th of June, authorities responded to the 900 block of Walnut Street in Racine, Wisconsin, on reports of a stabbing. When officers arrived, they found an unresponsive man laying on the sidewalk bleeding from his chest. The victim's girlfriend, Adela Gomez Zuniga, was laying beside him, crying with blood on her shirt. She told officers, "I stabbed him." Medics attempted life-saving measures and transported the man to a nearby hospital, where he was declared dead. Authorities said that Adele and the victim, who was not identified, started fighting after drinking alcohol, even though he had been sober for a year. The victim allegedly blocked her from entering their house and accused her of cheating on him. After Adela finally got into the home, they continued arguing about her alleged infidelity, as well as who paid the bills. They were pushing and punching each other, and he pushed her into a kitchen table. The victim went down to the basement and took $400 they had put away to save. After returning back, Adela grabbed a knife from the sink. Her boyfriend began taunting her, saying that she was stupid and that she wouldn't stab him. Adela told police that she didn't take her pills that day and had also been drinking, and that she stabbed her boyfriend in the chest. Authorities said that the victim ran out the back door screaming for help, and Adela followed him to get the money back. Neighbours said Adela and the victim had been arguing loudly for 15 to 20 minutes inside the home before they saw the victim collapse outside the residence. Adela was arrested, and while in the back of the police car, she said, "I stabbed him because he tried to take my money and he tried to kill me." During a search of the home, police found a 10-inch butcher knife with blood on it, as well as blood in several areas of the home. While in jail, she was heard saying, "I hope he dies." She later told officers, "I can't believe he's dead," and that was never her intention. When asked what her intention was, she said, "I wanted to get him scared." Adela is charged with first-degree intentional homicide and use of a dangerous weapon. She's held at the Racine County Jail, and a bond has been set at $500,000. She's scheduled to appear in court on the 21st of June for a preliminary hearing. If convicted, she faces up to life in prison. A 37-year-old man is behind bars for fatally shooting his father. At around 1 a.m. on Wednesday the 14th of June, authorities responded to a residence in Woolburg, North Carolina, on reports of a shooting. When officers arrived, they went inside the home and found Jamie Allen Coe deceased from gunshot wounds. During the investigation, detectives determined that Jamie had been shot by his son, Justin Allen Coe. Justin was arrested and charged with murder. He's held at the Davidson County Jail without bond. He's scheduled to appear in the Davidson County District Court on the 12th of July. No other information about the shooting or what may have led to it was released. A young woman has been arrested and charged after she battered police officers. At around 9:45 p.m. on the 8th of June, authorities responded to a home on North 8th Street in Middletown, Indiana on report of a person refusing to leave a home. When one officer arrived, he could hear several people yelling on the porch outside. He described several cigarettes and other things scattered about. Investigators said that a woman identified as Tia Short was holding a small child and crying. Tia said she called 911 because her daughter, Emily Collins, came to visit and was refusing to leave. She added that early in the week, there was an altercation and Emily had battered her. She said she was tired of being treated badly by her daughter. The officer then asked Emily to leave the home and warned her that she would be arrested if she did not comply. Emily stated that she wasn't going to leave. After multiple attempts for a peaceful exit, the officer began to arrest Emily. She then began assaulting the police officer by punching and kicking. The officer was kicked in the groin, prompting Emily's father Bobby to help try and restrain the woman. The officer then called for backup, and another officer responded to the scene. Both officers then attempted to put handcuffs on Emily's wrists. She freed herself and began swinging, striking the officer in the face, and kicking a second officer in the chest. The officers then held Emily down on the ground until additional backup arrived. 3 additional officers arrived, and they were able to restrain Emily with handcuffs. They went to place her in a squad car, and after placing a seatbelt around her, she refused to put her feet in the car, and demanded to be let loose, stating she would not go to jail. After being warned of getting tased by officers, Emily complied with their demand. Her mother informed officers she had asthma, and was afraid Emily would have an attack after the altercation. Police took Emily to a local hospital for clearance for the condition. After being granted medical clearance, she was taken to the Henry County Jail. Emily is charged with 2 counts of battery against a public official, resisting law enforcement, and criminal trespassing. Authorities are investigating a shooting which took the life of a pregnant 21-year-old woman and an unborn child. At around 1 a.m. on Sunday the 11th of June, a fight broke out at Soup's Restaurant and Bar at 1205 Country Club Drive in Jackson, Mississippi. Ayara Anderson was 8 months pregnant and had spent the night at the venue, and as she was attempting to leave in her car, she got caught in a crossfire. She was shot in the head and leg and crashed the vehicle into the Interstate 220 overpass along Industrial Drive. Ayara's friends attempted to revive her and called 911. Paramedics arrived and transported her to a local hospital, where she was placed on life support. An emergency C-section was performed, but Ayara and the unborn child died. Police have not made any arrests to date, and have urged anyone with information about the incident to contact Crime Stoppers. A 42-year-old man is behind bars in connection to the homicide of his 48-year-old girlfriend. At 11:23 p.m. on Friday the 9th of June, authorities responded to a home along the 2340 Blockerberg Road in Detroit, Michigan after Stacy Smith was found deceased in a bedroom. Authorities said she had been fatally strangled, stabbed in the chest with a knife, and her left leg had been partially burned. Upon further investigation, detectives identified Stacy's boyfriend Cordell Xavier Coleman as a suspect in a murder. Authorities said they believe Cortez tried to cover up the crime by burning Stacy's body with lighter fluid before fleeing the scene. On Monday the 12th of June, police located Cortez and he was arrested. On Thursday the 15th of June, Cortez was arraigned in court via Zoom on a first-degree murder charge. He pleaded not guilty to the charge and he's been held without bond. His preliminary hearing is scheduled for the 12th of July. Stacy survived by 2 teenage children, Kaya and Keith. The motive in the attack is unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. A 61-year-old man is behind bars for fatally beating his 69-year-old roommate. At 8:45 p.m. on Friday the 2nd of June, authorities responded to Heritage Place Adult Living Center at 1372 Eufaula Road in Statesville, North Carolina, after facility employees called 911 to report an assault. When deputies arrived, they found 69-year-old Mark Gray Leggett conscious, but suffering from significant trauma after being beaten in the head repeatedly with a blunt object. Paramedics rushed Mark to the Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center for emergency medical care. Investigators interviewed witnesses at the scene and recovered evidence. The victim's roommate, Gregory Gerald Warner, who was still on scene, was identified as a suspect and was immediately taken into custody. Gregory was transported to the Iredell County Detention Center and was charged with felony assault inflicting serious bodily injury. A week later, on Friday the 9th of June, authorities learnt that Mark died while at the hospital. On Monday the 12th of June, an autopsy was conducted by the medical examiner, and it was determined that Mark's death was caused by injuries received during the assault. That same day, Gregory's assault charge was upgraded to first-degree murder, and he remains in jail without bond. Gregory has a criminal history and has previously been convicted for indecent exposure. The motive in the attack is unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. A 61-year-old man is behind bars after he was found living with the body of his roommate for several days. On Friday the 9th of June, authorities responded to a residence at 4th Avenue West in Tipsy, Alabama about a dead family member inside the home. When deputies arrived, they found Leandrew Smith Jr. living inside the home with the man's body for days without notifying authorities of his death. The deceased man has been identified as James Edward Royal. James's 17-year-old grandson made the discovery and reported it to authorities. Leandrew was arrested and charged with abuse of a corpse. He remains held at the Walker County Jail on a $10,000 cash-only bond. 45-year-old Robert Morarity is accused of killing his wife, 42-year-old Kimberly Coleman, their 11-year-old daughter, and hiding their bodies in a garage for months at an abandoned rural residence. At 8:30 a.m. on Monday the 12th of June, Kimberly's brother-in-law called the Wise County Sheriff's Office and said that no one had seen her or her child for months. He told the 911 operator his sister-in-law was living off of County Road 4371 with Robert in Decatur, Texas. He also said the couple had 3 children. Deputies went to their home, finding it abandoned. No one answered when they knocked on the door, and a walk around the property found no one at the address. The next day, at around 6 p.m, a sheriff's office investigator, the Texas Rangers and several Dallas police officers located Robert in Dallas, more than an hour away from the Decatur property. They questioned him while his 2 children, aged 10 and 3, were beside him. Investigators said at first, Robert said he hadn't seen Kimberly or their daughter for about 6 months. Eventually though, he told the investigators that they were dead, and their remains were in the garage of the home deputies originally checked out. Their children were released to Child Protective Services, and Robert voluntarily returned to Wise County with a Wise County Sheriff's Office investigator and a Texas Ranger. They went to the home, where he pointed out where the bodies were. Sheriff Lane Atkins said the bodies were covered and stowed away in the garage, and it wasn't hard to find them. He said they were covered with blankets and clothing, and had been stowed away in the garage for quite some time, probably 5 to 6 months. We don't know exactly what the motive was, or exactly how they were killed, but we know it was at his hand, he said. Detectives located 2 knives at the scene. Robert was arrested and charged with tampering with a corpse, murder and capital murder. He's held at the Wise County Jail on an $800,000 bond. The bodies of both victims were sent to the Dallas Medical Examiner's office for an autopsy. The investigation into the matter continues. 32-year-old Chad Dorman is behind bars after he admitted to fatally shooting his 3 young sons with a rifle at their home and injuring his wife. At around 4:15 p.m. on Thursday the 15th of June, authorities responded to a property along the 1900 block of Laurel Lindell Road in a rural wooded area of Monroe Township, Ohio, after receiving 2 911 calls. The first call came from the mother who was screaming her babies had been shot. The second call came 3 minutes later by a passing motorist who said a little girl was running down the street saying that her father was killing everyone. Responding deputies arrived at the scene and found 3 unresponsive boys in the front yard with gunshot wounds. They attempted life-saving measures until medics arrived, but the boys died at the scene. The boys' mother, a 34-year-old woman, was also outside the home when deputies arrived, suffering from a gunshot wound to her hand after having grabbed Chad's gun at some point in an attempt to save her children. She was transported to hospital and was treated for non-life-threatening injuries. Chad was found sitting on a step outside the residence. He was taken into custody without incident and interviewed by detectives. Investigators learned that Chad had planned the killings, and he admitted to lining the boys up at his property and shooting them execution style. During this time, one of the boys had tried to flee to a nearby field and was hunted down by his father before being hauled back to the home and then shot dead. The motive in the slayings is unclear. Chad was charged with 3 counts of aggravated murder and is transported to the Clermont County Jail. On Friday the 16th of June, he appeared at the Clermont County Court in tears where a judge set his bond at $20 million. Authorities said that Chad may face additional charges. The investigation into the matter continues. A 24-year-old Florida woman is facing a murder charge in the death of her 2-year-old son after she confined the boy to a table booster seat for about 15 hours and neglected him. Rebecca Gussage Johnson was initially arrested in May on charges of aggravated child abuse, resulting in great bodily harm and child neglect in connection to the case. On Friday the 16th of June, the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office announced that she's now facing an additional charge of first-degree murder while engaged in child abuse. The new charge was added on Thursday, after the medical examiner's office concluded that the child's death was a homicide caused by severe neglect. At around 8 p.m. on Friday the 19th of May, deputies were called to a mobile RV on a commercial property along the 10,000 block of US Highway 301 in Tampa, Florida, after the boy's aunt found the child unresponsive. The boy was found in a bassinet underneath a blanket. The boy's aunt was asked to check on the child by the 2-year-old's father. While speaking with police, Rebecca admitted to strapping the boy into a table booster seat as punishment for acting out and screaming at around 8 p.m. the previous night. Investigators said that the 2-year-old was confined to the booster seat for about 15 hours and he became unresponsive around 2 p.m. on the 19th of May. The boy was asleep in the booster seat, sitting upright around midnight when Rebecca last saw the boy. At around 11 a.m, Rebecca found the boy laying on his side still restrained in the seat. The seat was flipped over and no longer upright. Rebecca said she saw the boy having seizures and shake uncontrollably. She picked the boy up and he died in her arms. Despite having a working phone, Rebecca did not call 911 throughout the day. Investigators found injuries on several parts of the child's body. The boy had trauma to his head, a wound to his right thigh and bruising on his extremities. He was covered in vomit and feces when he was found. The boy's father told police he purchased the RV about a year ago and said Rebecca and the 2-year-old boy and their 8-month-old daughter lived in the home. The father did not live in the home and had not seen the boy for 6 to 7 months before the incident. He told police that Rebecca always kept the children locked in the mobile RV. Rebecca's been held without bail at the Falkenberg Road jail. The baby girl is reportedly in the care of her grandfather. 30-year-old Cordell Glover is behind bars after opening fire on a car, killing a pregnant woman and an unborn child and injuring her husband. At just after 11 a.m. on Tuesday the 13th of June, authorities responded to several calls of shots fired at an occupied white Tesla at the intersection of 4th Avenue and Lenora Street in Seattle, Washington. When officers arrived, they rendered aid to the 2 adult victims suffering from gunshot wounds until medics arrived. The female victim was identified as 34-year-old Ina Kwan, who was 32 weeks pregnant. She was shot 4 times. Her 37-year-old husband Evan Kwan had also been struck, but sustained non-life-threatening injuries. They were rushed to the Harborview Medical Center, where Ina died. Her child briefly survived, but died as well. Surveillance footage from a nearby building showed Cordell running up to the driver's side door of the victim with an arm extended. Several witnesses identified Cordell as a suspect, and police spotted him nearby, and as he was taken into custody, he allegedly said, "I did it. I did it." The couple were reportedly on their way to work when the shooting occurred. While Cordell was interviewed by police, he said he thought he saw a gun in the car, so responded by firing into the vehicle. He told officers that he has a history of needing mental health care, and responding detectives noted that he appeared to be in some sort of crisis when he was arrested. Cordell's a convicted felon and is unable to possess a weapon. Police said that the handgun used in the shooting of the couple was stolen out of Lakewood. Cordell is charged with first-degree murder and first-degree attempted murder. He may also be charged in the death of an unborn child, as well as illegally possessing a firearm. He's held on a $10 million bond. 4 people are dead in Breathitt County, Kentucky after a woman shot 3 relatives, then turned the gun on herself. 34-year-old Ashley Little shot her 15-year-old daughter Chloe Little, grandmother 78-year-old Missouri Gross, and another relative 58-year-old Luther Combs at Ashley's residence at 2975 Wolverine Road in Jackson, Kentucky. State police were called to the scene at 10:37 a.m. on Friday the 16th of June after another family member went to the residence and found an unresponsive female. The Breathitt County coroner pronounced the 4 people dead at the scene. Investigators said that Ashley and Chloe lived in a mobile home, while Missouri lived in an apartment over an attached garage at the same address. Police are still investigating what led up to the shooting. A 26-year-old man is behind bars after fatally shooting his 20-year-old girlfriend at their home. At around 1 a.m. on Friday the 16th of June, authorities responded to the 9,000 block of North Parkview Drive in Baton Rouge, Louisiana on reports of shots fired. When officers arrived at the scene, they found a deceased woman lying in the driveway of the property who was identified as 20-year-old Akia Dorsey. Police said that Khalil Holmes, who was a suspect of the shooting, remained at scene and was arrested. Investigators confirmed that Khalil and Nakai were in a relationship. However, it's unclear what events led up to the shooting. Khalil is charged with negligent homicide and is held at the East Baton Rouge Parish Prison with no bond set. The investigation into the matter continues. 35-year-old Marissa Rodriguez has been charged this week with murdering 66-year-old Michael Massena. On the 12th of April, authorities went to Michael's home at 7017 Crestview Drive in Erie, Pennsylvania to complete a welfare check on him after family members reported they hadn't heard from him since the 28th of March. When officers arrived at the residence, they observed nonsensical graffiti on the walls, but no one answered when they knocked on the door, and no one was found inside the home when they went in. Investigators were called back to the residence on the 13th of April to investigate a report of a woman in the attic and encountered Marissa, who said she was there to take care of Michael's cats and had not seen Michael in weeks. Michael's Cadillac was at the residence when detectives arrived, but when they returned to the residence later in the day to complete a missing persons report with members of Michael's family, the car was gone. Police issued a be on the lookout alert for the vehicle. While going through the residence during that second visit, investigators noticed a portion of carpet and padding missing from the front entry of the home. Detectives also found bleach and bleach wipes and blood on a bathroom wall. Human tissue was found in a floor vent, and blood splatter was observed on the floor and ceiling. Investigators took a closer look at the graffiti on the walls, which contained statements including, "I already shot myself 6 times in the head and shot the devil and burned him alive." Officers found a burn pit behind the garage of the property that was warm and contained human tissue and bones, as well as fibres that appeared to be the same as the missing carpet from the home. On the evening of the 13th of April, Marissa was found in Lilydale, New York, driving Michael's vehicle. She was arrested for the stolen vehicle and was taken into custody at the Chautauqua County Sheriff's Office and extradited back to Pennsylvania. She was booked into the Erie County Prison without bond and was charged with unauthorized use of a motor vehicle. While interviewed by detectives, Marissa said she lived with Michael for 2 to 3 months at Crestview Drive, but last from about 2 weeks earlier. She also made several comments about Michael being dead, but did not disclose how she knew he was dead. Investigators searched Michael's bank records as part of the investigation. Purchases made through the account included washcloths, a gas can purchased by Marissa on the 29th of March, and a chainsaw purchased by her on the 3rd of April. Detectives reviewed video footage of her making these purchases using Michael's debit card and PIN. Detectives also found an iCloud account belonging to Marissa. It contained a photo of a gun and a video of Michael deceased with gunshot wounds to the back of his head and to his body, lying on the floor in a pool of blood at the front of the home. An examination of a Google account associated with Marissa revealed searches made on how to shoot someone, how long it takes to burn a body, and cutting a dead body with a chainsaw. On Tuesday the 13th of June, Marissa was charged with criminal homicide, aggravated assault, abuse of a corpse, access device fraud, theft by unlawful taking, identity theft, tampering with or fabricating evidence, and possession of a firearm prohibited. The investigation into the matter continues. A 33-year-old woman was fatally shot in a backyard during an argument. At around 5:50 p.m. on Friday the 16th of June, authorities responded to a property in the 1400 block of Ridgewood Avenue in Lakewood, Ohio, and reports of shots fired. When officers arrived at the scene, they found a woman with a gunshot wound to the chest in the backyard of a house. The woman was transported to the Metro Health Medical Center, where she was pronounced dead. The Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's Office identified the victim as Anika Coleman. According to authorities, they took 3 people to police headquarters for questioning. Witnesses at the scene told police that the victim had been arguing with residents of the home when shots were fired. 2 guns were recovered at the scene. Investigators are working to determine what the argument was about, as well as who fired the gunshots. The people who were questioned were released, and no charges are pending at this time, as investigation into the matter continues. A 26-year-old man is behind bars for fatally shooting a 23-year-old woman over the weekend. At 12:39 a.m. on Saturday the 17th of June, authorities responded to the 100 block of Boulder Drive in Franklin, Ohio, where they found a woman with multiple gunshot wounds. First responders attempted life-saving measures, but were unsuccessful, and she was pronounced dead at the scene. The victim was identified as Caitlin Puckett of Lebanon, Ohio. During the investigation, authorities identified Elijah Thomas as a suspect, who fled the scene on foot after fatally striking the victim. At 9:42 a.m. that same morning, police located Elijah driving in the city of Franklin. Authorities performed a traffic stop and arrested him without incident. Police said that Elijah is from Hamilton, Ohio, but has ties to the Lebanon, Ohio area as well, but did not disclose what those ties were. Elijah is charged with murder and felonious assault and is held at the Warren County Jail on a $100,000 bond. He's set to appear in court on the 20th of June. The motive in the attack is unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. A pregnant woman and her unborn child have died after she was shot by a 2-year-old son. At around 1:30 p.m. on Friday the 16th of June, authorities responded to a home along Woodlawn Avenue in Norwalk, Ohio, after 31-year-old Laura Ill called 911 to report that she had been shot. When police arrived at the residence, they found Laura behind a locked door upstairs with a gunshot wound to her back. Laura and her unborn child were pronounced dead shortly thereafter. Police said that Laura and her toddler son were the only ones at the home at the time. Norwalk Police Chief Dave Smith said there's just no words. The specifics on how the shooting happened is yet to be determined. The detectives are taking a good look at it, he said. 26-year-old Donovan Hartzell is behind bars after a security home camera caught him shaking and hurting his 4-month-old infant daughter over the weekend. At around 10:35 a.m. on Saturday the 17th of June, authorities responded to a home in Safety Harbor, Florida, after receiving a report of child abuse. The baby's mother, who was not home at the time when deputies arrived, told them that Donovan was seen on a camera inside the home shaking and hurting the baby. When law enforcement went inside the home, they found Donovan in a bedroom and the baby lying on the bed crying. Authorities said the infant had visible red marks on her face, neck, arms and chest. Authorities said that a video provided by the mother confirmed that Donovan held the baby by her shoulders and shook her vigorously back and forth. Donovan then put the baby on his lap while she continues to cry, and then he starts to aggressively rub a blanket in her face. Her child was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Donovan was arrested and charged with child abuse and remains held at the Pinellas County Jail. The investigation into the matter continues. 33-year-old Brittany Holbrook is behind bars after fatally shooting her 30-year-old boyfriend Tyler Knowledge. At 2:45 a.m. on Saturday the 17th of June, authorities responded to a house at 491 Avenue F in Big Copper Key, Florida after the couple's roommate Jordan King called 911. He told the operator his roommate Tyler was in bad shape and is hurt really bad, and there's a lot of blood. When deputies arrived, they found Tyler on the living room floor, covered in blood with a bullet wound to his lower back. Deputies saw a handgun along with a spent shell casing on the floor. Tyler was unconscious but breathing, and he was rushed to the Lower Keys Medical Center, but he died an hour later. Jordan told investigators that he, Tyler, and Tyler's girlfriend Brittany had been drinking earlier, and that all three went to bed before he was awakened by a scream. He ran to the living room and found Tyler on the floor bleeding. When he asked what happened, Tyler reportedly said the bitch shot me in the back. When deputies questioned Brittany, she said she initially said there was a gap in her memory. She said she remembered going to bed, but the next thing she recalled was being in the living room holding her boyfriend, who was covered in blood. A little later, she said she recalled waking up in the bed and Tyler strangling her. She said she didn't know how she got away, but remembered him strangling her a second time and pushing her up against the bathroom wall. She told detectives that while Tyler was strangling her, she struggled to breathe, so she punched and scratched him. While detectives saw bruising on her knuckles, they did not see any sign of strangulation on her throat or in her eyes. She said that she had not fired a gun since moving from Stuart, Florida over 9 months ago. Brittany was arrested and charged with murder. She remains held at the Monroe County Jail. A woman was arrested after she went for an early Sunday morning stroll naked. At 6:36 a.m. on the 18th of June, authorities responded to the 700 block of Keck Avenue in Evansville, Indiana, on reports of a female walking the streets without any clothes on. Police quickly located the woman, later identified as Roxy Bab, down the road at the intersection of Morton and Race Avenue. Roxy was handcuffed and transported to the Vanderburgh County Confinement Center and is charged with public indecency. A man has been arrested after a mother of a toddler found a stranger sexually assaulting a baby in an upstairs bedroom. At 12:40 a.m. on Friday the 16th of June, authorities responded to a woman's home at Piqua, Ohio, after she called police to report the abuse. The man fled the residence after being discovered. Police developed a suspect, and by 12:30 p.m. that day, they arrested 34-year-old Jesse Hartman of Piqua. Jesse was charged with rape and burglary, and he's been held at the Miami County Jail. Police said additional charges could be filed. The investigation into the matter continues. A 44-year-old woman is behind bars after impersonating a Child Protective Services worker and trying to lure a 4-year-old boy to her home. At just after 3 p.m. on Saturday the 17th of June, Lisa Crowley knocked on the door of the victim's home, located at 5801 Ralston Avenue in Cincinnati, Ohio, and claimed she worked for Child Protective Services. Lisa, who was wearing a badge, asked to enter the victim's home to perform an inspection because someone had filed a complaint against them. The child's mother, Jamie Spredlin, said that Lisa even knew all of her children's names. Lisa, however, did not leave her contact information behind. Jamie said she was tending to her infant son inside the home, and her daughter was in the driveway, while her son was out the front on his bike when he was approached by Lisa. Her husband Tim was away at the time. The victim's parents felt something was off, and reviewed surveillance footage and saw that Lisa touched their son, put her arm around him, and stroked his hair for several minutes before she spoke with the mother. The family did some research and learnt that Lisa was not in fact with Child Protective Services. Jamie said that everything was a lie, and now we're sitting here on top of being enraged that this has even happened. Terrified because I don't know what her plan was. Lisa told investigators that she had been drinking since early that day and that she walked to Kroger to get some more beer. She said that on the walk home, I saw a young child that I felt wasn't being supervised, so in an attempt to scare the parent, I pretended to be from Child Protective Services, she said. Lisa, who lives several blocks away, allegedly asked the boy to come with her to her home 3 different times before he rushed inside to alert his mother. Norwood police officers arrested Lisa and booked her into the Hamilton County Jail on a charge of criminal child enticement. On the 20th of June, police filed additional charges of burglary and impersonating an officer. She remains held on a $10,000 bond. On the 15th of June, a jury found 19-year-old Megan Joy Samirowitz guilty of killing her 64-year-old father. On the morning of the 1st of October 2021, Megan threw drain cleaner on her father, Conrad Samirowitz, who slept on a couch in the home along Duck Creek Lane in Groveland Township, Michigan, leaving him unconscious and with burns all over his body. Authorities said that Conrad struggled with alcohol, and he was drunk at the time with a blood alcohol level of 0.3. Megan was upset he was unable to drive her to the hair salon for an appointment before her 18th birthday party later that night, after turning 18 2 days earlier. Megan texted her friend Kayla at around 10 a.m. and sent her a picture of herself crying. When Kayla asked what was wrong, she said, "My dad got drunk and I freaked out and threw stuff at him." Megan then left the house, leaving her father alone. Kayla received another text from Megan at 3:47 p.m. that afternoon and asked if she could go to her house to check on her dad because he was sleeping and she needed the credit card number. Since she just lived down the road, she agreed. When Kayla arrived at the residence, she discovered Conrad unconscious with significant burns all over his body and immediately contacted 911. While her father was being treated for chemical burns to his head, torso and extremities at the Genesis Hospital in Grand Blanche, Megan called Kayla 2 times requesting the credit card number. When Kayla told Megan her father was in hospital, Megan hung up the phone. When police went to the house to investigate the matter, they found live powder on the couch where Conrad had been laying. At around midnight, Megan was arrested by Michigan State Police at a hotel where she was celebrating her birthday. In an interview with police, Megan claimed that she had thrown a bag of bread at her father and possibly water, which were near some cleaning products. Conrad remained hospitalized for 5 months following the attack. He underwent numerous skin grafts and endured infections that led to the amputation of both his legs. He died on the 6th of March 2022 after being taken off life support. The Oakland County Prosecutor's Office said that he died from chemical burns and complications sustained after a chemical was thrown on him. Prosecutor Karen McDonald said this is a tragic case. The defendant lashed out in anger and wound up killing her father. Megan faces up to life in prison and will be sentenced on the 25th of July. A man and a woman are dead following a shooting in a suspected murder-suicide. At 6:47 p.m. on Sunday the 18th of June, authorities responded to a home at 2942 First Avenue in New Auburn, Wisconsin, after receiving a report that 2 people were possibly dead. When deputies arrived at the scene, they found 37-year-old Beth Parker, the resident of the home, suffering from a gunshot wound. She was rushed to a local hospital, where she died from her injuries. Investigators said that 38-year-old Jeremy Whitrock of Rice Lake, who was under a no-contact order with Beth due to a pending domestic abuse charge, was pronounced dead at the scene with what appeared to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound. A 15-year-old was also at the home at the time, but was not physically hurt. The teen's relationship to the man and woman is unknown. Authorities said the official causes of death will be released by the Barron County Medical Examiner's Office at a later date.